So does the release of the Pokemon Generation 4 remakes, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, affect the Pokemon trading card game vintage markets? Well, in today's video, we're going to explore that in a little bit of a thought experiment. But before we do, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we talk about if the re-released Generation 4 remakes, the Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl Nintendo Switch games, influence, affect, or have some sort of dramatic uptick or relation to the vintage Pokemon card markets. Now, today's video is going to be a little bit more of a thought experiment, so as always, if you like today's video or you think you want to see more of this type of content, definitely feel free to leave the like on the video to let me know that you enjoy it. And hey, if you really enjoy the content, definitely feel free to subscribe. It's the easiest and the freest way to show some support to the channel, as well as let me know that I'm doing the right thing. But without further ado, thought experiment commence. Do Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl influence vintage Pokemon cards? In short, yes. Now, let me walk you through how this works. So, Nintendo is the Pokemon that controls all of the stuff at the end of the day, right? Let's not be coy here. Pokemon and Nintendo are basically just working to maximize the amount of brand recognition and the amount of people that are playing and consuming their Pokemon brand. Bear in mind, the Pokemon brand is wide, it is diverse, it is unique because it's one of the most recognizable media franchises in the world. And let's not forget, there's a TV show, there is a Pokemon trading card game, there are video games. They will get you one way or the other, long story short. And Pokemon has basically confirmed that that's the plan, right? That's the idea, is that because there are many different streams through which you can consume Pokemon, the intention is that either one will act as a gateway for the other ones. What does that mean? You pick up a pack of trading cards at Target. When you come back home, all of a sudden you're motivated to go on your Switch and download a remake. And then you play the remake and you realize how terrible they are because they're old, crappy games. And then you realize you need to download Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. And then all of a sudden you're working your way backwards through some of the other remakes, right? And let's pretend that you didn't have a Switch. Well, all of a sudden you have to buy a Switch, which means, ta-da, you're hooked into the ecosystem of Pokemon. And that's exactly how this stuff works. Now, what's interesting is that there is intelligent design behind that. From a business perspective, the intention is that you're supposed to get looped in and start consuming all the different streams of Pokemon media that come your way. However, most of that stuff requires Nintendo or Pokemon to make money. The interesting thing is that Pokemon, Nintendo, and no other party make money from the vintage Pokemon card market. So there is a bit of an inherent disconnect there because Pokemon, Nintendo, etc., they're never going to act in the interest of the vintage Pokemon card markets because there's never a reason to do so, because again, they make no money from that particular era. However, they do benefit from it coincidentally, because anytime one of these type of articles pop up, it immediately draws attention to the Pokemon brand name. And no matter what you do, the Pokemon brand name doesn't belong to the person who sold that card or the auction house that sold that card. The Pokemon brand name belongs to Pokemon and to Nintendo. And so, again, there is a really powerful connection between the vintage markets and the modern Pokemon media franchise. And it's very important that you understand that in order to understand how modern remakes will influence the vintage trading card scene for the foreseeable future. So, with all that said, let's just walk through the most basic example, right? Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were released, and immediately they are pretty much widely acclaimed and loved by many people. So that's a really good thing. Now, of the remakes, there are two streams of people who will consume them. there will be Switch owners and rejoiners. So Switch owners are exactly what they sound like. They're people who own a Nintendo Switch. They may be, fans of the particular Pokemon games. They may just be people who love Nintendo games, and so they really want Diamond and Pearl, etc., etc. And there will be rejoiners. These are people who don't have a Nintendo Switch, but for one reason or the other, give or take the amount of time since they've played the original games, they recognize the games, they want to experience the remakes, and so Nintendo makes a very clear point here. In order to enjoy these games, you will not only have to purchase the games for $60, you will also have to purchase our system for either, $200, $300, or $350 US. Now, regardless of which of the two streams you may or may not fall into, there is a number of people who work or play in the Pokemon TCG and a number of people who do not. So how does that influence the vintage trading card game? Well, that brings us to step number 2, which is the sets coinciding. So it's not a secret to anybody, right? But V-Star has already kind of been leaked out there. We see a bunch of trademarks being filed, and it happens every single time. Pokemon does a great job of effectively releasing video games and trading cards in sort of a very good coincidence. And again, there's no such thing as coincidence, right? Pokemon isn't silly. As part of their media franchise operations, what they do is they will release Sword and Shield, and they will release Sword and Shield themed sets. Then, when they release Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, we will get sets named and based off of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So again, remember all those people we talked about in step 1, they now will get curious and or interested in the trading cards, right? And again, there are multiple factors at play here, but the short version of a long story is that of those fans playing the video games, there are some people who also do the trading cards and some people who don't do the trading cards, right? And so for the people who do the trading cards, it's very likely that they already know about the vintage markets, but that's not the point of this video. The point is that the people who don't know about the trading cards may end up walking in and saying, oh, let me try some of this stuff out at Target, right? And so in February or March or whenever, when new sets drop that are Sinnoh themed and Generation 4 themed, they will be curious, they will purchase some of this stuff, and they will start consuming it, right? Now, Nintendo, from a business perspective, is effectively just playing a statistics game here. At this point, what you have to realize is not everyone is going to go out and buy the trading cards, right? But the idea, especially when it comes to consuming media in all its forms, is that you want some number of people to convert from one form of media to another. Now, let's just say there are 100 people. There are 100 people who bought Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and this is obviously a very simple example, but bear with me as I make my point. Of those 100 people, let's just say 50 of them will go to Target or wherever and buy some of the Sinnoh or Generation 4 themed trading card sets. Good news is that Nintendo has successfully converted 50 of these people, right? They are now consuming an alternative form of Pokemon media, and Nintendo's still making money, right? Now here's where the vintage markets kick in. Now let's just say, of those 50 people who went to the store and bought trading cards, 10 of them, right, or 20%, no longer care or no longer get the good kicks that they get as they used to get when they were a kid. Bear in mind, some of these people are, grown-ups now, but were kids back in the day. They could not purchase trading cards. They didn't have the income to do so, and they just didn't, have the flexibility to really enjoy the hobby the way they would have wanted to, because they were, their income was a total of $20 allowance if they did their chores on any particular day. The thing is that now, they're adults, they're working, they probably bought a Nintendo Switch and the game, so it's not like they don't have the money to do so, and before you know it, they may say, I wonder how much Diamond and Pearl is, because I remember opening up those cards. And then what ends up happening is those same exact people go on eBay, Mercari, OfferUp, etc., join some Facebook groups, and before you know it, there is a new set of people who are existing. And this is the third step in my hypothesis. My theory is that As these folks continue to explore and learn and grow and develop, they bring with them a renewed interest in the vintage trading cards that they grew up with. Now, there's a good chance that in my particular example, they will be focused in on Generation 4. However, they may also impact the interest in Generation 3, the era that came right before it, and Generation 5, the era that came right after it. So you might see some increased interest in the EX era sets, you may see some increased interest in the Generation 5 sets, and that's how it happens, right? Pokemon effectively operates in its own best interests for its modern media franchise, but inadvertently also acts as a gateway for the tertiary market of vintage collectibles that we here in the hobby have seen increase in price dramatically over the past couple of years. So that's the entirety of my theory. The one thing that I have to say sort of in conclusion is that I think this is the most organic type of growth that we typically see here in the hobby. 2020 was unique because it was the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, and the reprinting of base set in the evolution set really kind of kickstarted something special. Many people who were around in 2016, who were around in 2020, pretty much unanimously agree that 2016 was nothing when compared to 2020. 2020 has also had its fair share of shade and shadow casted over it. A lot of people say that folks like Logan Paul sort of operated in their own best interest and financial gain. A lot of people point to cryptocurrency investors as being a main driver behind some of the insane price increases that we saw, and yet others say that the looming shadow of the 25th anniversary really kind of drove prices to new highs, and now is a good time for recovery. A lot of people will also be quick to remind you that there are million-dollar baseball cards out here, and so to think that the world's largest media franchise, Pokemon, can't pull off a vintage collectible in the same range as baseball is, maybe a bit unrealistic. So, all things considered, I think it's one of those situations. This is the way that organic growth has occurred in our hobby for the better part of a decade. As remakes get made, people get reinvested, people get quite literally invested in purchasing vintage collectibles, and all of a sudden there is a organic amount of growth that takes place, because all it takes is one vintage purchase before you decide you want to collect, and that's usually when we see the organic cycle of growth. And of course, it comes at a great time. It comes at the end of a very large boom that occurred in 2020, and so now we go through the phases of, regrowing, relearning, retreading previous highs as we sort of build towards the 30th anniversary. But with all that said, friends, that's what I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like on the video and let me know your thoughts down below. I'm definitely curious to see what you all think. This is just my theory and my hypothesis. Obviously, many commentators have said something similar in the past, so it's not like this is any type of proprietary information. The other thing is that I'm sort of speculating for the future, assuming all things equal and assuming things behave the way they used to, but I'm super curious to hear if you all think things will behave in a different way, given we live in a post-pandemic and a post-2020 Pokemon explosion type of world. Of course, if you like today's content, the best and easiest way to support my channel is to subscribe, give me a like, and hit the notification bell, so definitely feel free to do that if you haven't already. But with all that said, friends, thanks again, as always, for your viewership. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and we will talk soon. Peace.